The first time I heard my son's voice break on the phone, I thought he was hurt, physically hurt. "Mom, can you come get me?" he whispered, his words trembling like a leaf in a storm. Something happened at school. I dropped everything, keys clattering to the floor, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear his next words. He called me the N-word, Mom, in front of everyone. For a moment, the world spun. My son, my beautiful, gentle, straight, never in trouble boy, had just been branded with a word that still echoes through generations. I felt a cold, ancient anger rise up, the kind that makes your hands shake and your vision narrow. But I had to stay calm. I had to be the adult. I had to be the hero he needed. As I drove to the school, every mile felt like a test. Would I lose my cool? Would I let rage take over? Or would I show my son what dignity looks like in the face of hate?
I didn't know yet.
But I knew one thing. This was not going to end quietly. And what happened next would not only shake our family, but would ripple through the entire community and far beyond. When I arrived at the school, the parking lot was already buzzing. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when it's something ugly. I saw my son, Marcus, sitting on the curb, knees pulled to his chest, his backpack forgotten at his side. His teacher, Mrs. Evans, hovered nearby, her face pale and anxious. I knelt beside Marcus, brushing his hair back, searching his eyes for the boy I knew. "Who said it?" I asked softly. He pointed across the lot to a group of boys, one of them smirking, arms crossed, surrounded by friends who looked everywhere but at us. I recognized him, Tyler, the principal's son. The golden boy. The one who never got in trouble no matter what. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just about a word. This was about power, about who gets protected and who gets punished. I stood up, took Marcus's hand, and walked straight into the front office. But what I found inside would set off a chain of events no one could have predicted. The secretary looked up, startled by the storm in my eyes. "I need to see Principal Harris."
"Now."
She hesitated, glancing at the closed office door, but something in my voice must have told her this was not a request. Within minutes, we were ushered in. Principal Harris sat behind his desk, the picture of calm authority, gray suit, silver hair, a wall of diplomas behind him. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mrs. Carter, what brings you in today?" I didn't sit. "Your son called my son a racial slur. In front of half the playground." For a split second, his mask slipped. Then he recovered, folding his hands. "I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. Tyler is a good boy. Maybe Marcus misheard." My son's fists clenched. I could see the tears he was fighting back. "He didn't mishear," I said, my voice steady. "Other kids heard it too." Harris sighed, as if this was all a great inconvenience. "Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. Boys will be boys. Sometimes words get thrown around." I felt my blood boil. That word is not just a word. It's a weapon. And you know it. He leaned back, eyes cold. "I'll talk to Tyler. But I don't see the need for further action. We don't want to ruin a child's future over one mistake." I stared at him, realizing in that moment that the real battle wasn't with Tyler, it was with the system that protected him. I took Marcus's hand and left, but not before saying, "If you won't act, I will." As we walked out, I could feel the eyes of the staff on us, some sympathetic, some nervous, some just hoping the storm would pass. But I had no intention of letting this go. What happened next would turn a schoolyard insult into a national headline. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, replaying every word, every look, every excuse. Marcus sat across from me, silent, his dinner untouched. My husband, David, paced the living room, fists clenched, trying to hold back his own anger. "We can't let this go," he said. "If we do, it'll happen again. To Marcus, to someone else." I nodded, but the question was how? The next morning I called the school board. I called the local paper. I posted on Facebook, telling the story exactly as it happened, naming no names but making it clear. A child had been called a racial slur, and the school was doing nothing. Within hours, the post exploded. Comments poured in. Some supportive, some defensive, some ugly. But the story was out. Parents started sharing their own stories, some from years ago, some from last week. The school's phone lines lit up. The local news called asking for an interview. I hesitated, but Marcus looked at me and said, "If you don't talk, they'll say it never happened." So I agreed. The next day, a news van parked outside the school. Reporters waited at the gate. Principal Harris called me into his office, his face tight with forced politeness. "Mrs. Carter, this is getting out of hand. You're making the school look bad." I met his gaze. "The school looks bad because it is bad. You had a chance to do the right thing. You chose to protect your own." He bristled, but before he could answer, the superintendent walked in. "We need to talk," she said, her voice sharp. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in Harris's eyes. But what happened next would push the entire town to the edge and force everyone to pick a side. The superintendent, Dr. Patel, was not a woman to be trifled with. She listened to my story, then to Marcus, then to Harris. She asked for witness statements from the playground. She called in Tyler, who fidgeted and mumbled, "I didn't mean it like that." Dr. Patel's face was stone. "Intent does not erase impact," she said. "You will apologize to Marcus. And you will attend sensitivity training. But that's not all." She turned to Principal Harris. "You failed to follow protocol. You minimized a serious incident. You'll be placed on administrative leave, pending investigation." The room went silent. Harris's face turned red, then pale. "You can't do this," he sputtered. "I've given my life to this school." Dr. Patel didn't blink. "And you almost let it destroy a child's spirit. That's not leadership." Words spread like wildfire. Some parents were furious. How dare the principal be punished for one mistake? Others cheered, finally feeling seen and heard. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended. Hashtag justice for Marcus. Hashtag no more silence. The local news ran the story, and soon national outlets picked it up. My inbox filled with messages from strangers, some hateful, most grateful. "Thank you for speaking up. My child went through the same thing." I wish my parents had fought for me. Marcus's classmates started treating him differently. Some avoided him, afraid of the attention. Others stood by him, emboldened by his courage. But the real test was still to come. The school board announced a public meeting to address the incident. The whole town was invited. And what happened at that meeting would change everything. The auditorium was packed, the air electric with tension. Parents, teachers, students, reporters, all eyes on the stage. The board chair opened the floor for public comment. One by one, people spoke. Some defended Harris, others demanded accountability, a good man who sharing stories of racism swept under the rug. When it was my turn, I stood, heart pounding, and told our story. I spoke of Marcus's pain, of the word that still echoed in our home, of the principal's refusal to act. I spoke of dignity, of justice, of the America I wanted for my son. The room was silent when I finished. Then a teacher stood up. "I've seen this before. I was afraid to speak. I'm not afraid anymore." Another parent followed. "My daughter was bullied for her hair. The school did nothing. No more." The dam broke. Voices rose, stories poured out, and the board listened. When the meeting ended, the board announced sweeping changes: mandatory anti-racism training for all staff, a new reporting system for bias incidents, and a public apology to Marcus and our family. Principal Harris resigned. Tyler's family moved away quietly. But the real victory was in the faces of the children who came up to Marcus, hugging him, thanking him for being brave. Social media lit up with messages of support. The story was shared across the country. People debated, argued, learned. And in our home, Marcus smiled again, not because the world was perfect, but because he knew he was not alone. Justice had not just been served, it had been demanded and won. If you're watching this, remember, silence protects the powerful, but truth protects the vulnerable. Stand up, speak out, and never let anyone tell you your story doesn't matter. Because the day my son was called a racial slur at school was the day our whole town learned what it means to fight for dignity and to win. And that's a lesson worth sharing with the world.